My first work amping job was at Mesa Verde in Colorado. And it was there that I really developed an interest in Native American pre-Columbian history. I spent a lot of time that summer exploring the Four Corners area. The following year, I went east and discovered the mound building culture. I've done several videos on those sites I visited. And now I'm on my way to Chaco Canyon, one of the major cultural centers that lasted several hundred years, with roads that stretched out in all directions and connected it to other communities. So that's kind of a big deal, and I was really anxious to see it. And I had questions, and the answer always seemed to be, well, we don't really know. And because no one likes to admit they don't know something, it was often followed by a comment of, we're not allowed to talk about that anymore. So I went looking for answers. "32,000 years ago, humans came to this continent. We know their tools and weapons, but there are no dwellings. These were cave-dwelling, hunting peoples, Fred Flintstones. We don't know much more about the group that followed the archaic peoples. Their tools and handiwork became more sophisticated. And about 3,000 years ago, people began building permanent structures of some sort. And these people we know a little bit more about. In the East, these structures took the forms of mounds and mounds of dirt. Sometimes they were burial mounds developed over years, and sometimes they were ceremonial. And over the years, they got quite huge. And about 300 years before our calendar starts, they created these large effigy mounds. This is Serpent Mound, and one of the few that are left. And also around this time, they began to build these huge complexes that stretched for miles, with mounds and villages that held hundreds of people and were constructed over many generations. And then something happened. These communities disappeared, and what emerged were called the Fort Ancients, which were much more primitive. All that was on the East Coast. On the West, we have a little different situation. They're divided into three main periods. The ancient Pueblo people, who lived underground in pit houses, and it's characterized by their basket-making skills. And in places like Mesa Verde, you can see the development from pit houses when they began to build these cliff dwellings. Some were home to 30 to 40 people, probably a clan or a family. And these kinds of constructions and family groups are spread all over the Southwest. And like the mound cities in the East, people disappeared around 1200. Except Hovenweep, which was founded around that time and consists of freestanding buildings. This was a development different from the Mesa Verde area. They came, they built, they were gone within 100 years. The Puye cliff dwellers did it a little bit different. They actually dug into the canyon walls and built little caves. Later, they moved to the mesa top and built large communities. But again, because of what we think was a severe drought, this community also abandoned the settlement. So now we come to the Chaco Canyon era and the people that built freestanding homes in the canyon. This era is considered a little different because of the precision of building that these people mastered. And the massive roadways they built to connect their community to many others in the Four Corners area. But even in this area, you find cliff dwellings. These were along the campground trail. So it's believed that perhaps people from the Mesa Verde area migrated down, lived with the Chaconians, and built in their traditional way. There are many little settlements scattered all over the canyon, but this is the largest and considered the central point, Pueblo Bonita. More of a ceremonial and gathering spot than an actual dwelling. A few hundred people may have lived there. About 100 years later and 50 miles south, we find this development that's officially called the Coronado Historic Site. They actually made uniform bricks out of mud using a frame to build their houses. One unique feature of this area is that in this kiva, they discovered murals, which of course they had to remove, but they have refurbished it and have replicas on the walls. It's really cool to go down into it. These people were here in the 1500s when the Spanish began to explore New Mexico, and within 100 years they had abandoned this site. And because Coronado may have been in this area, they call it the Coronado Historic Site. While north of Chaco Canyon, up near Farmington, New Mexico, we find this settlement that's referred to as the Aztec Ruins. Here they have reconstructed a great kiva, and you can go down into it just to see what it might have been like. This settlement came toward the end of the Chaco period and was lived in for about 200 years. In all these places I visited, I heard no evidence that these people lived anything other than peacefully. And the land is incredibly peaceful and beautiful. I hope that made sense, and I hope you get out and look around your area because there's something close to you.